Welcome back to another episode of Emotional Nightmares. I'm your host. My name is Tyler. We're still doing these from the 831 Club here in Butler. Like I said, we are going to be taking this show on the road here, kind of going to different locations, meeting up with different people, give a different perspective, different points of views, trying to outline all the different roads and pathways to recovery. So with that, down here, we find ourselves with another guest. This guest here is Bobby. And Bobby, you said you were sober now, how long? 6 years?
December 8th, 2018.
Okay. So
December 9th.
Okay. So we got some time, right? So with that, right, I just met the gentleman, so I will let you take it from there. So go ahead.
Okay, so my sobriety date is December 9th, 2018. I probably, in and out of active addiction, probably close to 15, 16 years. I grew up in Butler. Kind of back and forth, moved around a lot. My dad was in prison for most of my childhood. My mother was in active addiction. She actually just got sober. She just went to rehab last month.
Awesome.
I moved around a lot with my mother. As a child, drugs were like, I was exposed to drugs at a young age. My grandmother, who helped raise me, she actually worked the program. She was sober for a very long time. She was sober until she died. So she kind of was like a mother figure, but I still lived with my mom. I have a little brother. I have a couple little brothers, but I had a little brother that lived with me and an older brother, and I kind of took care of my little brother growing up. I had a halfway decent childhood. I mean, aside from moving around a lot. My grandma did that, though. She tried to keep stuff together. I started off drinking. My stepdad, my little brother's dad, he was an alcoholic, and we would go to field parties and stuff like that. And I kind of started off with get me a beer, drank here and there. Started smoking weed. I guess weed was more socially acceptable for younger kids. The first time I tried heroin, I think I was probably 13. I did it for a little while. I didn't start injecting it till I was older. But my uncle, who helped raise me for a while, he got incarcerated for selling heroin, and he was probably 6 or 7 years older than me, so I hung out with him and his friends. I sold weed for a long time. That's what I did. I got put on from somebody, and I seen, like I said, so drugs were exposed to me at a young age, and the people that my mom were around were drug dealers. And coming from when you're poor and you don't really have a lot, and seeing them have nice cars, nice things, you want that. And
sure, it's very appealing. I mean,
yeah.
Shit, there's whole genres about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
every movie, everything.
Yeah. But I seen that, and I had a guy that put me on. He started giving me a shoebox full of weed, and I would sell it and give him the money back, and I learned what profit was, and I also smoked weed for free. After a while, I went out and found my own connect, and I was probably 10, 20 pounds of weed I would buy. I did it all through middle school and high school, up until like my addiction really started. I got back into prescription drugs, Oxycontins, Roxicet 30s. I was doing those for a while, and then pills kind of became expensive, and heroin was readily available and a whole lot cheaper. So I started doing heroin again.
So you started doing pills then during the OxyContin days when they were back to like in 80s, like $80. It's a deal if it's 60. So
Well, I remember when they were like $25 a pill,
right,
and then like they went up,
started increasing.
Yeah. And then
so,
they came out with was that Opanas.
Yeah. So that was the real heroin boom, right?
Yeah.
Because that's when everybody did realize, like, whoa, shit, a bag of heroin's like $5. Like,
Well, I remember my first time ever really buying heroin was like $20 a bag, but the bags are huge, and like I said, I never injected, so like my uncle did, and he like would always tell me not to. He's like, don't ever shoot heroin, like it's pretty much like it's the devil, you know what I mean?
Right.
Even though he was doing it, like I guess he tried to be a role model as much as he could. I have vivid memories of like my childhood wasn't the greatest, but they tried to make it good for me. I remember my mom owed this drug dealer money, and he came to the house looking for my mom, which she wasn't home. She would leave on weeks on end. We had to go up to Michigan to find her one time. She ended up in Florida, but he come to the house, and he was looking for her, and my uncle was like, he come over, and he was like, listen, man, like, I'll pay you what she owes you. You know what I mean? Yeah, he would try to like look out for us. So he'd be like, just smoke weed. You don't need to be doing this other stuff. And he like maybe promised him I wouldn't shoot heroin. He's like, if you're gonna snort it, but don't shoot it. He's like, it's just bad. But not until like I got later in life. I think the first thing I ever shot was Rocky 30, Roxicet 30, and morphine. Fell in love, like instantly. For a long time.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah, it was like an instant like love-hate relationship. Like I was talking to my sponsor the one day about it, and he was like, "Do you think that you were a functioning heroin addict?" And I was like, "Yeah, for a while I believe I was, because like I knew what I had to do, because if like I don't want to be sick, I would for the most part go to work or sell pot to pay for it." And he's like, "So where do you think it went bad?" And I was like, "I'll tell you where it went bad: shooting cocaine." Like, I would shoot cocaine and I would get these crazy ass thoughts. Like, I remember I was downtown Pittsburgh the one time. We just bought drugs, and like, you know how like you think it's never gonna be enough. And we were sitting outside of the bank, and I told my buddy, I was like, I think I'm gonna go in there and rob that bank. He's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I've seen it in the movies and the TV." He's like, "That's because it's a fucking movie. That's why they get away with it." He's like, "No, man, you can't go rob the bank." I was like, "Yeah, man, I'll go in and get the money off the fucking one teller, and I'll leave." He's like, "Bro, you are stingy as shit." He's like, "You will want every teller in there, and then you're gonna want to fucking hit the fucking vault." And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Listen, if you get out of my car," he's like, "I am locking the door and I'm driving off." And he's like, "And I'm going to call the cops so you get arrested and you don't die." I was like, "All right, I won't do it." But I remember down at Presby, this is before like they did the Good Samaritan, like they don't arrest you for people overdosing. I remember getting pushed out of the car and rolling up to the emergency entrance, and I must have been laying there for a couple minutes, because the triage nurse come out, and she's like, "Oh my God, I think you were pushed from a moving vehicle." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I was just walking." She's like, "I think you may have overdosed." I was like, no, I don't even do drugs. Meanwhile, I got like a blood trail going down my arm. She's like, "I think you need to come in here." And I was like, "Am I going to get arrested?" She's like, "No, but I think you need to come in here." I was like, "Okay, then I'm leaving." I was like, I
love the sense of denial, right? Like when we're using drugs, like it's so fucking evident. they were using drugs, right? But like we want to deny, right? You're getting high. Nope, not me.
Well, right before I got sober, so this last time, I've only been in recovery one other time, like, because I only actually worked the program one other time. I've been abstinent, like, in and out of jail, but I've only actually worked the program twice, this time and time before. I had about 2 years, and I had relapsed, but what got me this time was probably a couple months before I got sober, I started getting high again, and my little brother got sober with me around the same time, and he got his life together, and he had come up to me, and I was already getting high at this point, and he was like, man, what are you doing? You know how, like, when you see somebody that's doing well, and you tell them, I'm doing good. I'm good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, bullshit, man, I know you're not fucking doing good. He's like, you're not answering the phone for me or nothing. And he's like, I just want you to get sober again, man. You're a good guy when you're sober. Well, probably like a month later, he had died in a car wreck. And I went to his funeral. Well, I didn't find out for like 3 days. One of my buddies, Joey, had to come find me because my phone broke because, you know, I'm actually getting high. And he found me, and he's like, listen, man, I hate to even be the one to tell you this. He's like, but your brother died in a car wreck. And I started thinking, like, I have a couple little brothers, so I'm like, which little brother? And then he finally told me. And my little brother's my celly for 9 months at one time, like, one of my best friends. But I went to his funeral, and I made so my dad was like, can you please go to this funeral sober? He's like, you can get high afterwards if you want. He's like, but I want you to feel the feeling. You know what I mean? He's like, I want you to remember this. And so I went to his funeral. My little brother had tons of friends, dude. He was from a smaller town, Shakora, out that way. But there were so many people there wasn't enough seats to sit down. But I made him a promise. I was like, listen, I'm not going to promise you that I'll get sober right now. I was like, but the next time I get sober, I'm going to stay sober. And I got arrested. My birthday is December 8th. That's the last time I got high, 2018. The next day, the U.S. Marshals kicked my door in, and I've been sober ever since, man. I ended up doing like almost a year in jail. Like a lot of the time, I have to go to jail and sit for a while, because like if I'm back out in 30 days, I'm not clear-headed. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
That, like I'm still cloudy, and like it takes a little while for that to like set in. And so I was in there a while, and I seen a friend of mine, and he was like, dude, he's like, are you done? Like you keep trying this your way, man. He's like, fucking, are you done? Like, do you want to like try it and give it an honest actual go and take suggestions and like try it a different fucking way? And I was like, yeah, you know what, man? Like, I don't got nothing left. He's like, what are you gonna do? I was like, well, I was thinking about seeing if they'll just take all my probation, wrap it all together, and just send me upstate. And he's like, why the fuck would you want to do that? I was like, well, I can max out. And he's like, what are you gonna do when you max out? I was like, probably come home and get high. He's like, well, at least you're honest. He's like, why don't you try something else, man? He's like, I'll advocate for you and help you get out. He's like, but I'm not gonna do it right away. He's like, because you need to be here for a while, man. And like, I buckled down, man. I cracked the basic text, and I hadn't done that in forever. And I started reading, like, in the back they have all the stories. I started reading them, and like, I started reading it again and like getting familiar with it. And I had like, I mean, there's not really sponsors in there, but I had a pocket sponsor, you know, those little pocket sponsor book. And like, I was like, you know what, man?
I like those little books. They save a lot of lives.
Yeah,
really
well,
do.
like, I was like, this time I'm gonna give it an honest go, because like I did it last time, but like it was like social, you know what I mean? Like I would go to meetings and socialize. I didn't really go to like, I wasn't looking for the solution. And so I like, I went to my gag 2, or I went to my gag 1. They told me that till I outcome my charges, and that they were gonna determine what happened. Well, I went to my gag 2, and they're like, we're gonna parole you to rehab. And I was like, all right, cool. So it was like a Thursday, and mind you, I worked in rehab for the last couple of years, so like It was like a Thursday at like 6 o'clock, and for like 7 or 8 months I worked laundry, night shift, 10 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning. And I'm sleeping, they woke me up, and they're like, hey man, pack your stuff, dude, you're leaving. I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, you're going to rehab. I'm like, it's like 6 o'clock at night, ain't no rehab coming to get me. And like I played the part. I went downstairs, they changed me out. I'm standing at the Sally port looking out, and the CEO was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, where's the rehab van at? He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I'm supposed to go to rehab. He's like, no, man, you're getting released, and you got to get yourself into rehab. And like, I stood there for a second, and I was like, you know what, man? Like, I was like, I've been here a million times. I was like, the same situation. I was like, and I'd walk out those doors, and the first thing I would do was I would run to somewhere, to like a trap house, a bar, somebody I knew was getting high. I didn't have any positive support, and like, I was like, you know what, man? Like, I said, you got to take me back upstairs. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, if I leave this jail right now, man, I'm gonna die. I was like, I know it. And like, the crazy thing is, like, for weeks on end, dude, people would get out of the jail, and like a day or 3 days later, they were in the paper, the obituary, because they were just dying left and right. And I was like, I don't want to be a statistic, man. Like, I've done this so many times, and like I almost like foreseen like the death. I was gonna die, and I was like, I don't care if I got to smash that TV. I was like, I'll smash that TV to go back upstairs if you won't take me back up. And he's like, if you really want to go back upstairs, he's like, I'll take you back up. And he's like, you know what, man? Like, I got to give it to you. He's like, my brother was a freaking flyer in that jail too. He's like, your brother would have ran out that fucking door, dude. He's like, and probably been high. He's like, so I got to give it to you for going back upstairs. Well, the crazy thing was, they were doing the Recovery Life Bible. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They came, and I put in to get one. And when I came back upstairs, that shit was up on the pod waiting for me. And I was like, that's crazy, you know? But it was like probably a couple weeks later, I had gone to rehab, and I couldn't get in touch with somebody, so I ended up going to an Oxford house, and they stuck me in the basement of this Oxford house. They're like emergency room. It was like a brick wall. Like, it was bad. And I was like, man, I'm not going to stay sober down here. I was like, I can't. There was like really no accountability either. I was like, man, I can't do this. Well, I was walking up Main Street, and I was honestly thinking about going to get high, and I had seen one of my friends that I've known for a long time, and he was like, listen, man, he's like, I'll reach out to the guy that I live in his house, and he's like, and I will get you in with me. So, like, we called him, and he's like, go get your stuff and come over to my house. And he's like, I just opened the house up. He's like, I'll let you move into it. I didn't have anything, man, nothing. And he was like, I'll help you, you know. And I ended up moving in there. I got a job at a landscaping company. And my ego always tells me that, like, I should be the boss after, like, 2 weeks. So, like, I'm like, man, I should be running this. I don't have a driver's license, nothing, you know what I mean? Like, no car, but I should be the boss of this company. And, like, thank God I had, like, some positive support in my life. They're like, you're just crazy. What the hell? You ain't got nothing going on, and you want to be the CEO and the boss of this company. And so, like, I rode that out for a little while. And I had, like, thankfully, I had met some guys in the rooms. I remember, like, I wasn't even trying to get a home group for a little while. And I would go to the NA Nooner every day. And my buddy was a home group member there. And for, like, 2 weeks, I showed up. And the one day, you know how they're like, hey, all home group members raise your hand. He's like, why don't you raise your hand, man? I said, because I'm not a home group member. He's like, you are now. I signed you up for that shit. I was like, great. So, like, it was me, him, and his sponsor were the home group members. And, like, I was like, well, if I'm committing to something, I got to fully commit. So I would show up 5 days a week. I'd help open it up 3 days. Crazy thing is, I did this for a while. And my buddy, he's from Cleveland. And you might know James Carr?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And his sponsor was from Scranton. So, like, holidays would come around, and I think it was Christmas or Christmas Eve, and I called my sponsor up. I was like, man, it is 3 feet of snow out there. I was like, ain't nobody going to show up to this meeting, dude. He's like, you selfish son of a bitch. He's like, you need to get up and go open that meeting up. He's like, if you don't go open that up, he's like, there's going to be people that need a meeting, and you're not there. So I like drudged my ass through like 3 feet of snow up to this meeting, opened it up, and then he called me later. He said, how many people showed up to that meeting? I was like, I don't want to talk about it. He's like, how many people? I was like, there's like 18 or 20 people. He's like, there you go, man. He's like, that's why you do it. But like that threw me into like commitment, and like if I say I'm going to do something, to do it. We did that for like 2 years, and then COVID hit. I think it's funny because a lot of like my friends are like, man, I relapsed because COVID happened, and I was like, well, you relapsed because you wanted to relapse, man. I was like, I went through COVID and I don't relapse, you know. Yeah, I did that for a while. James
Well,
actually.
I mean, I think the isolation really killed a lot of people though, because like, I mean, I made it obviously, and like a lot of us did, but because it went old school, and this is where I take blame for this too, because like I've been around for 20 years, so unfortunately, I think a lot of us didn't teach a lot of like newer people that like the foundation of recovery started on somebody's kitchen table, right?
Yeah.
And like, I think like a lot of people down here was great, right? Because like I know a lot of people in the other fellowship of this program that was still running them out of the basement, but I think like a lot of us, myself included, I should have done more at my house for people, and I didn't, and because they shut us down where we couldn't, at least in my home area.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to go to meetings, and like instead of doing the alternative route of like, we'll come over to this person's house and we'll do them at the kitchen table, like we didn't, and like a lot of people fell off from that. Like it did fuck a lot of people up.
Well, I think that's why it's important, like when they.
But a lot of people do use it as an excuse,
well,
though,
that's
too.
why I think it's important when like a newcomer comes, you give them that paper and you write all the numbers down so they can call. You know, I remember like I'd ask everybody for their number, man, and like I reached out. Like I was one of those people. I was stubborn. I didn't like asking for rides, so I walked everywhere. But like I remember there was this guy. He worked one of the other fellowships when I was in NA. And he's like, what do you do on Saturdays, man? I was like, oh, shit, I'm off I'm off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He's like, cool, man, now you got something to do on Saturdays. That's what are you talking about? He's like, you're going to come up to the hospital and do the bridge group with me at detox. I was like, shit, man. I was like, I can't tell you no. So I went up there for a while and did that with him, man. And, like, he helped me, man. Like, it put it in perspective why, like, I wanted to keep staying sober. Yeah, James got me a job out at Wise, the place he worked at. Like, he was like, listen, man, like, I'll put my name out there for you. And that's one thing I learned, like, I always thought, like, in the program, there was a ulterior motive why people wanted to help me. Like, they wanted to gain something from me. But then, like, I just learned that they wanted to see me better myself and be the best version of myself I could be. But, yeah, he stuck his neck out for me and got me the job. And what's crazy is, like, I was trying to be honest. I remember, like, when I came home from prison the one time, I went to McDonald's and tried getting a job, and I was trying to be honest, so I wrote down on the application, like, my felonies and stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I was trying to be honest, and they called me in for an interview, and they called me in for a second interview, and I'm talking to this lady. She, like, looks down, she starts reading it. She's like, we can't hire you. I'm like, what are you talking about? She is like, you have gun charges on your record. I was like, yeah, but it's not like you guys manufacture guns. Like, you know, I'm not going to steal guns off you. And she's like, yeah, I'm sorry, we can't hire you. I was like, that's crazy. That's before, like, they started felon friendly and all that. Right. But, like, so I had going out to Wise, and I was like, I'm going to be honest with them, because I was assuming that James told him he was in recovery too. So I told him how much sobriety I had, and the manager that ran it, he was like the plant manager. We sat down and talked, and he's like, why should I hire you over this other guy that he has like 5 or 6 years experience running a press? I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, to be honest. And I was like, I'm willing to learn and everything. And he's like, well, listen, man. He's like, his son had died of an overdose. I didn't run around with him, but I knew him. And he's like, something about, like, my son's telling me to hire you for some reason. And he's like, and I couldn't really help my son out, so, like, maybe, like, me helping you out help you stay sober longer. So like he gave me a shot, man. I worked there for like 16, 17 months. I loved the job, but I hated on their press. Like that wasn't my gig. You know, they put me on like this 1960s press. It would break down all the time, and they're like, "Hey, if it breaks down, like, just hang out." And I was like, "Man, I'm one of the people that I have to be moving around. A 10-hour shift feels like 20 hours when you're standing." But they were like, "Hey, man, if it breaks down, like, there's nothing you can do until I fix it." And he's like, "You're still getting paid." I was like, "That's true, but I like to be moving around and doing stuff." But I worked there for a while, and like I knew I wanted to help people and like what I wanted to do. I'm a CRS. I work for the COE. But I was like, I want to give back and want to help people. So like I applied out at Pyramid down in Gibbs County at Wilkinsburg, and I worked there for a while. And that's during COVID. Everything was shut down. They wouldn't take them to meetings. And like I sat there and talked to my supervisor, and I was like, "Listen, man, like you tell these guys they need to go to meetings. Like some of them have never been to a meeting in their life, and we tell them like, yeah, when you get out of here, hit meetings up, but we can't take them to them." So like I was like, "Listen, I have a ton of friends that are in sobriety and in recovery." I was like, they will literally drive down here and they will talk to them. So like I would have them come down, and I would kind of do like a bridge group of our own. Like have 2 or 3 of them come down. They would give like 20-minute story, and then the guys would ask them questions. You know, I do that every Saturday and Sunday, so like they could see that people were sober. You know, that it actually works. But yeah, I worked there for a while, and then I went up to Geyser for a while. I worked there for like 2 years, and then I got into outpatient, being a CRS, helping, and I've been helping my sponsor run his houses for like the past like 4 years. I remember like when I was a house manager, my first week being a house manager, I drug tested everybody. He's like, "Man, what about all them drug tests I gave you?" I was like, "I drug tested everyone." He's like, "You're not supposed to drug test everybody the first day." I was like, "Man, the mailman was walking down the street. I had to drug test him." I was like, "Make sure he's sober." But that taught me how to like meet people where they're at, and like I think that's like the biggest thing. Like meet people where they're at, but not leave them right there. Yeah. Like I was definitely an asshole when I first became a house manager, and then like I said, I learned how to talk to people, and like you talk to somebody for a few minutes, and you can kind of tell where they're at. You know what I mean? What headspace they're in, and luckily, I say this all the time, I didn't really deal with mental health. I was just a drug addict. But I tell guys all the time, man, like if your mental health isn't like right, like that, you got to get that. You have to get that under control, because like that'll take you back out quick too. You know what I mean?
Well, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I know some people like they had mental health issues prior to being a drug addict. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But like I notice like some people they'll be on their mental health meds, and like they think like it's all good, and then like you can kind of see like they're either getting used to it, or like it's not being as effective as it was prior, and like they try to ride that wave out, and like I see them go down, man, and like I try to like I'm like, listen, like I always tell them, like, when you go in and talk to your mental health therapist, to be honest, man, about what's going on. Like you come to me and you're honest with me about stuff. Like you got to be on. Like these people are here to help you too, man. Like they always ask me, like, you're not gonna call my PO on me. You're not gonna do this on me, are you? I was like, listen, man. If like you're gonna harm yourself, yeah, man, I will. Like, cause I would rather see you sitting in a jail cell than like your mom, your kids, your father burying you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That took me a while too to get like. I always thought like he was telling on somebody. Like I don't want to be a snitch. I don't want to tell on nobody. But like today, I'm just like, if I can stop you from dying, like you can be mad at me all you want sitting in a jail cell. You know, at least you're still breathing. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I thought it was crazy, man. Like I went and like talked to the judge that like used to incarcerate me all the time, the DA, meeting with them, and I always thought they were like the enemy, like, you know what I mean? And then here, come to find out, they just wanted me to like be like a productive member of society. And like I wasn't that for a long time. I wasn't a productive member. Like I always say, like I believe in karma and like paying back a karmic debt. And like that's why like I try to help as many people as I can. Try to be there for people. Like I'm not rich by any means, but like if I can help somebody, I will. You know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be monetarily. Like I remember I was working on principles over personalities for a while, and this kid called me, and I didn't really like him. My personality, I didn't like him, but he had called me, and he was like, "Hey man, listen, I'm struggling. Do you think you can meet me?" And I knew he was actively getting high, so I was like, he was like, "Can I come to your house?" I was like, "No, you can't come to my house, but I will meet you at Dunkin' Donuts so we can sit down and talk." So I went there and I met him, and he was like, "Yeah man, like this is going wrong. Like me and my girlfriend are fighting. Blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Okay, well, is it your baby's mom or your wife?" He said, "No." I was like, "Okay, then, I mean, end it. Like, if it's bothering you this much, then like, she's not your kid's mother, so, like, it's not like she's going to be in your life for the next 18 years. You're not married to her, so it's not like you're going to have to go through a divorce." I was like, "Just end it then, man." And then he, like, told me about his job. He's like, "People are getting high there." I was like, "Well, what are you doing?" He's like, "Dishwashing." I was like, "Is it a career?" He said, "No." I was like, "So quit." I was like, "Go find another job." You know what I mean? I was like, you can find another dishwashing job. Like, it's not that hard." And he asked me to drive him to rehab. And I drove him down, and he was like, we got down by there, and he's like, "You know what, man? I don't think I want to go to rehab." I was like, "Well, the crazy thing is, man, one of us are driving back to Butler." I was like, "And one of us are getting out of this
I
car."
love those conversations.
I was like, you know what I mean? I was like, one of us is going to be driving back to Butler, and one of us is going to be homeless in this city. I was like, so you can either go to rehab or you're going to be homeless in this city, man. He ended up going. I had contacted with him for a little while. I think he had like a year sober, and then like I think he had moved away. But like that got me to like know that like just because I don't like a person like for a reason, I can still help them. You know what I mean?
Well, that's tradition one,
Yeah.
right? Like my recovery depends on our unity. You don't have to like each other to help each other. I mean, that's kind of the.
No, yeah, no, I liked it. I've been working on this thing. So like I was talking to one of my coworkers about it. I was like, so like if I don't like a person, I was like, I've been trying to do this thing where like I'll focus on something positive that I like about them, and I'll just focus on that. And I was like, it's been helping out. I was like, because I was struggling with a couple. Like I went to meet. So there's like I don't know how many different CEOs or COEs in Pennsylvania, and I went down to meet this one. She works out of a different office. I picked her client up and took him down, and I'm at Sheets, and she's like, "Hey, I'm here." I was like, "All right." So I told her client, I was like, "Hey, your cameraman or your navigators in the inside the store." I was like, "I'm gonna get your stuff out and I'll put it on the sidewalk, you know." And I come back out. I went and got a sandwich because I was hungry. So I come back out, and she's like, "Hey, I need you to load that in the car for me." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, do I look like a bellhop too?" I was like, "I mean, I can help you, but like, can you please load this for me?" And she's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna pull my car around. You can put it in the car for me." I was like, "Whatever." I was like, "Let me put my sandwich down, and I'll do this for you." But no, man, like, just being able to help people was like, I always said like that strengthens and helps me stay sober.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. Like I said about the like paying karmic debt back. Like I did a whole lot of bad stuff in this city, and like I'm just trying to equal it out for all like the bad shit I did. So put some good back into it, you know.
Well, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
it's helping people. You're helping people. I know. I think I've had a few people come through that has had you as their CSR or whatever. So I mean, you're doing something right. You know what I mean?
I mean, like, so my only thing is about like all this like recovery and like I know like they say like you're in recovery when you say you're in recovery, and like I'm okay with that, but like I just I work a 12-step program, you know what I mean, and like anybody I know that's sober and has significant sobriety works a program, you know what I mean, and like I don't try to. I remember when I first got sober, I tried to like 12-step people, like you got to go to meetings, you know what I mean, and like I don't try to do that, but
I
like
gave up on that years ago.
yeah, I don't try to do that, but like I just I don't know anybody that is actually like maintained sobriety and like is happy, joyous and free that don't really like I mean the steps don't gotta you don't have to be in recovery or active addiction or alcoholism to work those steps.
No.
You know?
No, I mean, in actuality, there are 420 self-help groups in America. All 420 of them, I think actually 400, it might be a little bit more now because there's a new group that just came on that I'm aware of. But I know every single group uses our 12 steps, right?
Yeah, the structure.
So they only change the wording of the first step. But I mean, to your point though, like I think I quit that a long time ago, trying to 12-step people.
Yeah.
Like I'll sit down and talk with people, but I've also come to learn, and I've been doing this for a long time, that I always tell people like, okay, define recovery for me. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. If you tell me, like and that's where, this is where like meeting people where they're at, right? Because if you tell me your recovery looks, I'm gonna be like, what does it look like, right? If you can build relationships, healthy relationships, what does that mean to you? And at the end of the day, if you tell me like, hey, you know, I had one kid that was like, hey, I just want to go to work, go home, watch TV, hang out with my girl, and like that's what I want. And I was like, okay, what about the rest of the stuff? That's all I want. What are you gonna do? Well, I'm still gonna drink every now and then. I'm like, okay, fine. Like if you think that you can achieve the life that you want using these, I'm not gonna argue otherwise with you. You know what I mean? Like, how about you just check in with me every couple months and see if we're still there?
Yeah,
you know?
I like that with like certain people, and I like, hey man, more power to them if they can do that.
Yeah,
but
if you can do
like,
it, hey,
there's the
good
ones
luck.
that like that'll call you and be like, my life's unmanageable, like I don't know what to do, and then like I'll be like, my suggestion would be like, well, why don't you find support to talk to? Oh, I don't trust nobody. Well, I was like, all right, well, let's go to a meeting. Oh, I don't do that either. I was like, well, then like clearly my suggestions aren't helping you. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, I like.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to do anything. Like,
Yeah,
how
it just
can you
sucks 'cause,
expect
like,
any results?
you don't want to give up on them, but like also like it burns you out, man. Like
Yeah.
trying, man. Like and like I told my supervisor one day, I was like, I love when I meet a new client and they're like, hey man, I wanna jump into this 12-step program. I want to try. I've never tried this before, and I want to try it out. I'm like that. It makes my heart happy hearing that, you know, because like I think they have a chance. Like honestly do, and
I've seen some people though, like, come through. I call it the invisible line theory, right? Like, you got this invisible line, right? Where some people, like I've known people in my life that, by all definitions, I would be like, man, they're a drug addict, right? 'Cause like I know this one girl in particular. She was smoking crack, shooting dope, drinking. I mean, she was all out there with us. Bad shit happened. She went over here. She came back here. It was cool. And like now when I see her, she's cutting hair somewhere down here. She drinks every now and then. Like her life's fine. You know what I mean? She had a kid. She's doing all right. Still just, you know what I mean? She lives a normal life, I guess. Then there's those of us where
oh yeah, I take one drink.
we cross the line, right? And there's only coming back to the line. Like I'm no longer going to be able to go back here, right? Like I can just come back to this line. So once we cross that line, it's like there's no coming back.
It's
But
like
some
that.
people are able to have traumatic events, and like they're the experimental people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you'll listen to people talk, and this is why like I get discouraged. My heart gets discouraged by our program sometimes, where like I'll hear people, and like I've been working in rehab now 20 years. Right?
Yeah, I think you
So-
were a tech when I first met you. Like a
Yeah,
turning
probably.
point.
Right? It's been a long time, long journey. But I'll meet people, and if you've been to rehab, you've met them too, where like people will come in and be like, "Man, life was fine," and like I went through a divorce, and like I smoked crack for a couple months, and like now I'm here, and like those people can fall back and be all right, you know. That's where that whole concept of meet people where they're at, you know, because to your point, like, man, you'll get burnt the fuck out quick if you don't.
I like it. You know how they say like one's too many, 1,000's never enough. Like and like you can be addicted to anything. I remember one time I was with my ex, and me and her son went to Walmart. I was like, you want something? You want like something good to snack on? He's like, yeah, let's go get some Oreos. So like me and him drove over to Walmart. I bought like him a pack, like them big packs, them family size ones. I bought me one and his little sister one, and we're driving back, and I'm just munching these ones away, and like I ate the whole pack. I threw it down, and I opened the next one up. He's like, Bobby, what are you doing? I said, what are you talking about? He's like, you're eating all my Oreos. I was like, oh damn, man, like that's like where like that. I'm like, damn, that like that switch that some people have, like they can shut it off. Like mine must be broken or something. And I also I went out to eat with my buddy the one day, and like he's I don't want to call him normal because I don't feel like anybody's normal, but kind of earthly people. And we were eating, and he ordered one of them margarita drinks with like the test tubes that are in them, with they have the shots. And we're eating, and he has one. He drinks about half it, and he pushes it away. I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, I have a buzz. He's like, I feel good. I don't need any more. He's like, plus, like, you got to drive me back to my car here in a little bit, and I got to drive home. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. I was like, man, I would have drank all that, asked her a couple more of those test tubes. I was like, I probably would have been down in, like, Manchester or, like, Garfield copping dope. I was like...
Well, that's how we know we crossed that line, right? Like, I always tell people, like, normal people can go home. They can go have a drink, go home, go to bed. I go have a drink and start committing felonies. That's how we know we're not fucking normal, right? Like, normal people don't think the way that we think, you know?
I had a friend ask me the one day, he's like, man, you smoked weed for a long time. Like, why don't you, he's like, why don't you try it? And I was like, I don't know if it would, like, burn my life down. I was like, but, like, all the stuff I've done to build my life up where it's at today, I'm not willing to gamble what I have, you know what I mean, to smoke a little bit of pot. Like, it's just, it's not worth it, you know?
Well, I think every addict, every alcoholic, everyone that's involved with trying to get sober will be faced with that question, which will be some point in time in your recovery is going to be faced with, can I still do that? And ultimately that's the tape you have to play all the way through is, are you willing to put everything you've ever worked for on the line to see if you can get that little buzz for a few minutes, you know? Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm not willing to risk that shit at all. You know, that's a hell of a gamble.
That and like I see they're coming out with like they came out with the xylazine after the fentanyl.
That's awful stuff, ain't it?
Then like they were just talking about something else they came out with, like some other kind of form or component that's mixed with it, like, and it's just crazy, like. This shit's literally like, and it's crazy for me to even say this stuff because like I remember like I'd be sitting in jail and like I remember those Theraflu bags back in the day were coming out, and there was the shark ones, and like I'm sitting in jail and I'm like, man, I would love to get those. Or like if I was on the streets, somebody like so and so just overdosed on this bag, I'd be out there frantically searching for that particular bag because like, oh, if this motherfucker died on it, and my twisted thinking was like, well, he just didn't know how much to do. Like, you know what I mean?
It's gotta be that good shit.
I'm a pro drug addict. I know exactly how much and how to do it. No, I won't die. I remember I OD'd the one time. This is like prior to me getting sober the last time. I was with my little brother and this girl, and I was getting high. I overdosed, and I wake up, and like my little brother's like doing chest compression. I'm like, yo, get the fuck off me. What are you doing? He's like, dude, you just overdosed. I was like, no, I didn't, man. I was laying down on the couch. He's like, there's not even a fucking couch in here, dude. He's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, no, man, I'm cool. He's like, no, you just overdosed. Well, I had this like epiphany because like I kept overdosing. So I was like, you know what, man? I'm done shooting heroin. I'm not going to shoot dope anymore. Which wasn't even heroin. It was fentanyl. I was like, I'm done shooting dope. Like, I was like, I'm just going to shoot cocaine. I was like, because I can't overdose and die on it. So, like, I called poison control, and I'm, like, on the phone with poison control. I'm like, hey, I have a crazy question for you. And she's like, what's that? I was like, so I just got Narcan. She's like, oh, my gosh. She's like, you need to hang the phone up with me and call 911. And she's like, you need to go to, like, a hospital, then detox. I was like, yeah, we're past all that. I was like, I'm not going to shoot heroin anymore. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, no. She's like, well, what's your question? I was like, my question is, I was just Narcan. I was like, can I inject cocaine and still feel the effects even though I was just Narcan? And she's like, my God. She's like, the mother in me wants to tell you no. She's like, but we're on a recorded line. She's like, I'm not supposed to lie to you. She's like, yes, you can still feel the effects. She's like, you really need to get into like a detox, long-term rehab, a halfway house, three-quarter house, and a program. She's like, you really need to. And I was like, yeah. I was like, hopefully one day I can. She's like, listen, I'm going to pray for you. And I was like, I appreciate that because somebody needs to where I'm at right now. And like, I told my buddy the one day, I was like, I wish I knew her name so I could like call her back and thank her. I was like, because like her prayer probably saved me somewhere down the line. But yeah, I remember I came home the one time and I had been sober for a little while. And like anytime that somebody OD'd on me, I was always high. So like, and I would bring them back. Well, I had this friend, I left a meeting. I left actually St. Andrews, a Wednesday night meeting. And I was walking up the hill to meet my ride. And I seen my buddy's car and he just got out of prison. And he had this, like, you remember them head units that, like, glowed real, like, bright, like, back in the day? He had one of those. And,
yeah,
like,
every Honda in the world.
Well, I had seen him, and he had one. He had just got it, and he was showing it off. And, like, I was walking up to meet my ride, and, like, there was a car in the parking lot, and I seen the door was open, and I seen the lights. And, like, I was like, oh, man, that's Joey over there. So, like, I walked over. He's, like, kneeling in like the pray position in and out of his car, and like I grab him and he was overdosed, so like I started doing CPR on him trying to bring him back, and I called 911, me and this lady, and it like literally their ambulance is right by the Honey Bear, and the place I was at was Van Sporting Goods, and like it's like a 3-minute drive if that. And it took them a minute to get there, and then when the police got there, the first thing this dude asked me was, are you on parole or probation? I was like, yo, you should be like trying to bring this dude back. He's like, oh, he's already dead. And I was like, that's just like, in my mind, this is how my mind is. I was like, maybe if I was high, I could have saved him. I was like, because like any other time I was high and somebody OD'd, I was able to bring him back. And I was like, it's just, but I went to his funeral, and his sister's like, I appreciate you like trying to do whatever you could. I was like, believe me, if I could have brought him back, I would have. I was like, but. And he just got out of prison.
You know what I mean? Like at least you tried.
Yeah, listen, man, I have I remember somebody asked me the one time, they're like, why do you do that? I said, because I have a conscience, man, and like, I can never leave somebody. I said, because I wouldn't want somebody leaving me, and then my kids have to bury me, you know? I was like, I couldn't do it, man. Like, even before the Good Samaritan, like, they passed that, like, I could picture, like, this person's family, like somebody could have saved that person and they didn't, you know. It's just like I'd want somebody to save me, you know. That's like if I'm having a heart attack, I'd want somebody to fucking save me from having a heart attack.
I would hope. I always feel like I look like a criminal. They're probably just gonna let me die. I look like one, I'm aware. So, but hey, man, listen, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, definitely,
I
man.
appreciate your story. Your experience, your strength, your hope. As always, I'll wrap this up is, you could be anywhere in the world today, but you chose to sit here with us and listen to us for about an hour. Listen to Bobby mainly. So I appreciate you for listening. I hope that you keep watching, and I hope that you hear something that will help you stay sober just one more day, because that's it, man. If you can just stay clean today, tomorrow looks better. So just get through the day, and if you didn't get anything here, please call somebody. Call somebody for support. Don't call them for dope. But we appreciate you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.